Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Another prominent Democrat announces his exit from Congress, unable to surmount a storm of sexual misconduct allegations against him. Senator Al Franken, taking the floor of his chamber earlier, exactly 3 weeks after the first accusation surfaced from radio host Leanne Tweeden. He began with this.
A couple months ago, I felt that we had entered an important moment in the history of this country. We were finally beginning to listen to women about the ways in which men's actions affect them. Then the conversation turned to me. Some of the allegations against me are simply not true. Others I remember very differently. I know there's been a very different picture of me painted over the last few weeks, but I know who I really am.
Although Franken disputes most of the allegations, he ultimately caved to pressure to step down.
In the coming weeks, I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate. This decision is not about me. It's about the people of Minnesota. This has been a tough few weeks for me, but I am a very, very lucky man. I have a beautiful, healthy family that I love and that loves me very much. I'm going to be just fine.
You know what I didn't hear him say, Dana? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, resigning this way means never having to say you're sorry. But I actually think that he doesn't truly believe he did anything wrong.
He doesn't.
And also, he's watched other people deny allegations and be just fine. And I think he probably thought he could weather the storm. But there were additional anonymous accusers that were coming forward. And I think that basically the Democrats are saying, you are no longer welcome here, and you're going to be sitting alone in the Senate dining room, and no one's going to talk to you. You're dead to us. We're going to walk around. I am curious about the decision to resign in the coming weeks.
What do you think that's about?
I'm not sure. I heard a theory. It's not my theory. Can I say it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I told Greg in the green room, but this is not my theory.
That he's a space alien?
No.
He's a shape-shifting lizard?
Close.
All right.
You're
closer. No, here was somebody's theory.
Okay.
That he said, I'm going to resign in the coming weeks because he's waiting to see what will happen in the Alabama special. And that if Roy Moore does win and is going to be seated, then he could reverse his decision and not resign. That's just a theory.
I actually kind of agree with the theory, Gutfeld. I think he's leaving a crack in the door this big because he wants to see how this plays out, because you know from the beginning of this guy did not want to lose his seat.
Yeah, well, my mom always said, you grab a seat, you lose a seat. Look,
She was wise.
my favorite part of his speech, by the way, I don't even think Franken believes Franken. Getting him out of the Senate will require dentistry. He said that he won that election by 312 votes when he beat Norm Coleman. He was talking about that. So imagine if all of these stories, which happened before he ran, had come out then, he would not be in the Senate. So the fact is, instead of being sad, he should be thanking his lucky stars that he got, 8 years in the Senate? He got 8 years in the Senate. He was not supposed to win. If those stories had come out, he would not be standing there. So he should have been thanking these women for not saying anything. Because, I mean, look, this is how long it lasts. And I love how, it goes. So now there's that other part where he goes after Trump and Moore, but he doesn't mention Bill Clinton or his enabler, Hillary. So I'm just wondering, is this a new party? Is this 20 years ago, this party ignored and played down Bill Clinton's sexual excesses, and they nominated a woman who shamed the victims.
Women, right.
So is this a new leaf for them? Are they changing their colors? I don't know.
Well, they're trying to turn over a new leaf.
And is it
That's the game that they're playing, because they're trying to create a contrast between the Democrats and the Republicans. That's why they're doing this.
I was just going to say that now that they've drawn this red line,
right,
will anybody be able to cross it? There are reports that there are up to 40 members of Congress who are looking at possible stories along. I don't know what they're going to say, but possible 40 people, that could be some Republicans, some Democrats. Will the Democrats hold that red line?
And it'll probably happen on a Friday. Greg mentioned something that the senator had said about Moore and Trump. Let's listen and have KG react.
Okay.
I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
The president addressed the comments back during the campaign. We feel strongly that the people of this country also addressed that when they elected Donald Trump to be president, and I've addressed it several times from here and don't have anything new to add.
So it looks like the White House is saying, Kimberly, let the voters decide.
Well, basically, that was the message from Sarah Sanders saying, look, you know, this was something that was vetted, that was brought out during the campaign, that the people of the United States had the opportunity to think about it, evaluate it, determine the strength of it and how it should play an impact on their decision of who to choose for commander-in-chief. So they made the decision. So she's saying, there you go. There was nothing hidden. It's not like it came out after he became president of the United States. And quite frankly, Al Franken is lucky because, as Greg said, this could have come out earlier. He got to be, you know, in government and work for the people and have this position for quite a long period of time before this information even came out. And I don't know why he's taking cheap shots at the president. I would have been more impressed if he said sorry for his conduct and actions instead of trying to flip the script and point the finger at someone else, instead of looking into his own conscience and behavior and making this a more of a teachable moment of ownership, not only for himself, but his family, but for other members of Congress as well.
Yeah, respond to that one. What do you think? I mean, he really whiffed when it came to a nice, clean, classy resignation.
Oh, no, I thought he was extremely classy. And
He did say he doesn't even believe the women.
let me finish.
I will.
So he said it's the worst day of his life. And I don't think you're a human being unless you understand that that man was at the pinnacle of success in terms of his political life. He said he came to politics late in life, but he worked very hard, and he worked in the tradition of, you may not know this name, but Paul Wellstone, who was a terrific senator from Minnesota, very much a progressive, you know, kind of, farm labor Democrat type of persona that fits into Minnesota. And Al Franken had to strive to get beyond the image that he was just a comic and to be dismissed as a political neophyte. And he did so, and he is a very popular senator, both in Minnesota and nationally, so much so that people were talking about Al Franken running for president. So now you come to a day when all of this goes to tatters, and his allies, I mean, people like Kirsten Gillibrand, Patty Murray, are leading the fight to toss him overboard. I don't see how you can say that this wasn't bitter and sad day. He calls it the worst day of his life. But let me go on
Worse
and say—
things have happened on this day.
No, well, I think for him, I'm just saying, for him, I think it's pretty sad. And I feel for him. I'm so sorry that this has happened. But I will say this, that I find myself in an odd situation where I agree with people like Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity. They, too, think that this is Democrats turning on one of their own and throwing them overboard for political purposes, that they will then be better positioned in terms of confronting charges against Roy Moore, especially if he's elected and there's attempts to have him thrown out, as well as to continue the challenge against President Trump and the charges that he has standing to this day against him in terms of women who say that he acted in a vulgar manner with them.
Can I respond to Juan? Because I agree. I do think this is a strategic move on their part. What they're trying to do, I keep hearing the phrase partisan divide over sexual harassment. Mm-hmm. So by doing this, they're basically saying we're not the Republicans. So I think both sides can be right. I feel bad for Al Franken, but I also feel that he is lying because I know for a fact he's lying because I've talked to the people.
No, but that's not the point. The point is, what is he lying about, Greg? So is he lying about
sticking the tongue down women's throats?
No, I don't. Look, he said that some woman said that he tried to wet kiss her, but that's one. Generally, what we're talking about is
more than one.
Is groping, right? While pictures are being taken. Mm-hmm. I think that's a whole lot different than what we're talking about with Roy Moore or even President Trump. Okay. But I just think at this moment, something is going on in the country, man.
I agree, and also, he said his other strong defense was, what he did is what you're saying is nothing as serious as allegations directed at other people. I actually agree. We have an indiscriminate leveling of accusations.
It's unbelievable.
Which all accusations are equal, and we're going to have to deal with that at some point, rather than letting the court of public opinion and then media indiscriminately decide that all of these things are equal. I think that what he did before he became a senator was his flaw. I mean, he thought that this was funny, and and when it all came out, it should have come out before.
Well, but the thing is, it didn't happen while he was a senator, which is something we're talking about, right? With many of these other people. That's what even the allegations are prior to his tenure as a senator. But what strikes me time and again is right now we're in the country, and I appreciate the fact that you spoke to me honestly, because I think there's so much politics at play in this. So on one level, we're talking about we need to deal with the issue of sexual harassment and intimidation of women and women being silenced and afraid to speak. But on another level, we're talking politics here. We're just talking about Al Franken, Roy Moore, John Conyers, and it's going to go on because both sides see some advantage in this.
All right. Well, did the FBI give special treatment to Hillary Clinton? Its director grilled on the Hill today that anti-Trump agents and more when the Five returns.
There is no finer institution than the FBI and no finer people than the men and women who work there and are its very beating heart.
The director of the FBI issuing a firm defense of his agency on the Hill today following a comment from President Trump that his agency is in tatters. Christopher Wray had a very different take at a House Judiciary Committee hearing earlier. Listen.
The FBI that I see is tens of thousands of agents and analysts and staff working their tails off to keep Americans safe from the next terrorist attack, gang violence, child predators, spies from Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. The FBI that I see is tens of thousands of brave men and women who are working as hard as they can to keep people that they will never know safe from harm. Now, do we make mistakes? You bet we make mistakes, just like everybody who's human makes mistakes. We will hold our folks accountable if that's appropriate.
Wray also addressed concerns from Republican lawmakers about political bias against President Trump by at least one FBI agent, Peter Strzok. Also, whether that agent once softened language in the Clinton email case.
Peter Strzok, who is a special agent at the FBI, changed the words grossly negligent to extremely careless in former Director Comey's statement closing the Clinton investigation. Are you aware of that?
I've heard some of the same information you have. The investigation into Secretary Clinton is currently the subject of an outside independent investigation by the Inspector General, and I think it would not be appropriate for me to speculate about what the Inspector General will or will not find.
All right, Kimberly, yesterday you talked about the FBI, and I know you know a lot of the people that work there, have worked there over the years. What did you think about how he handled the political pressure to answer as a political appointee, but also represent the FBI?
I thought he did an outstanding job. People had to feel across the country today better about the FBI under his stewardship. This was a man who was very credible, very reasonable. He had an excellent tone and tenor to his presentation. I found him to be very candid and forthright in terms of some of the problems that they've had and how they could improve upon it. And I believe him and take him at his word when he said that we will hold the people accountable that need to be. He seemed very reasonable and measured, that he would do a full and thorough investigation and root out any kind of bias or inappropriate conduct that occurred during the course of this investigation. It seemed to me that this was a good example of another excellent choice to be there at that organization.
He didn't close the door on the possibility of revisiting the Hillary Clinton email scandal.
Yes, that's
I thought
why
of you when I saw
Kimberly
that.
really enjoyed his presentation. I'm kidding. No, I think they're finally about to hit pay dirt when it comes to the real Russia scandal. Jim Jordan, the congressman, really, I think, peeled the thread back. And here's what it is. We know this guy, Strzok, anti-Trump guy, ran the Clinton email investigation and ran the Russia-Trump investigation. He was soft on Hillary and he was tough on the Trump people. That's already been established. But there's a belief now that this guy, Strzok, took the fake Russian dossier and used the dossier to apply for a FISA warrant that was then used to spy on the Trump campaign. So think about that. And he's stonewalling and won't answer questions about if he used it or not. So fake Russian dirt paid for by Hillary was used to spy on Trump. That's a huge story. And we also learned today another Department of Justice official has been demoted because he had contacts with the foreign agent who cooked up the fake Russian dossier and had contacts with the founder of the firm that Hillary paid to deliver the fake Russian dossier. And the FBI won't answer questions about it today in public. The DOJ is stonewalling congressional investigators. They're just trying to find out who was the person that applied for the FISA warrant to spy on the Trump team. What information? Was the dossier used as justification to get the warrant to spy on the Trump team? They're not getting answers. So what is the Department of Justice and the FBI hiding? Why are they afraid? And it's a Trump Justice Department. Why is the Trump Justice Department unanswering questions from House Republicans? It's very conspiratorial, and I think we're beginning to crack the case.
It's perfect for Water's World.
Yes, it is. Greg,
I'll get to the bottom
I don't
of
even
it.
know how the FBI is doing, but the Justice Department officials are reading through over 10,000 texts between Strzok
Yes.
and the woman he was having an affair with, Lisa Page. I mean, 10,000.
That's amazing. First of all, I have to say I'm getting extremely tired of these hearings. They're on all the time. They're more ubiquitous than the Cars for Kids band.
Oh, boy.
Who are now opening
877
Yeah,
Cars for Kids.
They're opening
Sorry.
for Radiohead, by the way. Did you know
that's
that?
good. That's a good
okay.
booking.
So 10,000 texts.
Sing
That's an
along.
amazing fact. What's amazing is that these two people aren't 14-year-olds. They're actual adults. But it makes me think, like, is the fact that there are 10,000 texts the problem? That people don't know when to stop texting. Like when you're in a situation where you're texting and you're polite and you think, I kind of want to end this, but if you stop texting, then you feel bad because you don't really say goodbye. You just stop.
You do one more.
You do one more text, and then you think, well, maybe if that one more text, you buttoned it up a little bit. But then the other person kind of does it with maybe a little question, but maybe it's hypothetical. And then you got to sit there and you go, oh man, if I ignore this
Right,
text.
emoji.
Yeah, so I thought the emojis were the solution for ending texting relationships. But clearly, I'm wrong.
Can you imagine, like, if you're a Justice Department staffer and you're
You have
having
to read
go
these.
through
LOL.
No, but then you
By
have
the
to
way-
translate the emojis. And what if there's like 10 of them?
10,000 texts.
No,
line
10
that-
emojis
That's
in
a
one
hot-
line. Yeah,
This-
yeah,
They're
yeah.
in love.
The strategy to muddy the waters and question the professionalism of the FBI seems to be working. And the CBS poll today showed that Republicans think that this is a political witch hunt, and Democrats think that this is absolutely that there's proof of collusion somewhere, and that they're going to get there. So basically, the parties are just very far apart.
But that's where we've been. I mean, that's not a change. I mean, that's Republicans don't see anything, Democrats do. Independents, though, I might add, generally now are on the Democrat side of this equation.
Barely, but yes.
But what interests me on this is that you see the president's strategy is to attack Jim Comey. We know about that, but then to go after Robert Mueller in increasing intensity, after the FBI and now the Justice Department, and all of this, it seems to me, builds towards the idea that he might fire Robert Mueller. So you have people like, Karl Rove writing in the Wall Street Journal this morning, but others as well saying in the Congress, don't fire the special counsel. And if you do, there's going to be consequences. So they're trying to put in place laws in Congress that would require the president to go to a court and justify a request to fire the special counsel. That's where the story is heading. I just find it, that there's an attempt here not only to distract and sort of derail the Mueller investigation.
But isn't that what the Clinton
But that's
administration
what they're
did
doing.
during impeachment and all the Lewinsky scandals? They basically turned it into the right-wing conspiracy and turned it into basically questioned the political motives rather than actually thinking that the investigation was on the up and up.
Right, and so what
And
you
it
got?
worked.
What you get? You got an impeachment of a president. So I don't think it worked.
But he ended up, he was reelected.
But I think we're in different times too, Dana. I
Maybe.
think we are in more political times than we were even then, and that was highly politicized, if you'll recall, with Democrats again favoring Clinton and Republicans
Yes,
opposing.
I do recall.
Bill would be a Republican now.
Heck, policy-wise.
More ways than one.
Oh, boy.
You think
All
so?
right, we're going to move on. U.S. Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn making headlines with some comments about President Trump. Who else? Next.
The Winter Olympics are coming, but will the U.S. participate? There are security concerns for Americans with the Games in such close proximity to North Korea. They're being held in the South. The White House says no official decision has been made yet, but America looks forward to participating. Meanwhile, U.S. Olympian skier Lindsey Vonn making some headlines today for taking some shots at President Trump.
I hope to represent the people of the United I take the Olympics very seriously and what they mean and what they represent, what, walking under our flag means in the opening ceremonies. And, I want to represent our country well. And I don't think there are a lot of people currently in our government that do that.
And she didn't stop there. All right.
Would you accept an invitation to the White House if you were to win Olympic gold in Pyeongchang?
Absolutely not. No, but I have to win to be invited, so. No, actually, I think every U.S. team member is invited, so no, I won't go.
All right, so Dana, what do you make of this?
Well, this is. I remember I was very fortunate. I got to go to the Olympics in 2008 in Beijing.
Must be nice.
And I thought that this would be so non-political because here you have it's sports. It's like the United Nations comes and they're going to compete. And it was weird being in the opening ceremony and feeling like when the North Koreans got announced, I was like, I don't like this. And then you could hear people booing the United States and Israel. And it was just much more political than I thought it would be. And I get that in terms of, especially if you look back at the American-Russian hockey game of 1980, people still talk about that. I do think, though, that reporters are going to try with every one of these athletes to get them on the record to talk about President Trump. And if I were their representatives, I would tell these athletes, you don't need to do these interviews. If you want to focus on winning, do that. Because I think that the push from the media is going to try to make this all political, and it would be better for all of them if they could just focus. She even says she says she wouldn't go to the White House, but I have to win to be invited. If I were their representatives, I'd say just focus on that.
Yeah, and why even, Dana, just real quick, go out of the way to try to make these disparaging comments? It almost seems like. I mean, why not take a pass on it?
I think there's a lot of they're not necessarily political people, or they have personal opinions. They're out there because they want to probably impress their sponsors. They want to get out there maybe to intimidate the competition, and they get asked these questions about the president, and it's a little bit irresistible for both the press and for the athlete to say that. Now, maybe it helps. Maybe she thinks it helps her amongst her peers, or maybe on social media. If she is surrounded by people that don't like the president. Then that makes her feel better. I don't know. But I wouldn't answer the questions. I wouldn't even do the interviews.
Right. See, that's the thing. But who's advising them? And they're not politically astute, so they're not aware that perhaps this is going to have more far-reaching, implications or ramifications, Jesse. But it just seems almost like it's a little bit of like a popularity thing, like a cool thing to do, and kind of, be disrespectful and say, oh, no, I wouldn't go to the White House.
I could give him a point to say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lindsay's really on thin ice with me. It's a cold thing to say about the commander-in-chief. There's a mountain of evidence that she doesn't even know what she's talking about. She really got too far out over her skis on this one. It's really downhill from here for Lindsay. She peaked at the last Winter Games, Gutfeld. I mean, she wants to participate to the race to the bottom. That's fine with me, but she's going to get a very chilly reception from the the and I don't need a poll to tell me that.
Wow, you memorized that almost. Very slight. It's like looking down, whatever.
That took me 3 hours.
It was pretty good.
Look at Greg. I mean, he's silent screaming inside after listening to that. Poor thing.
High expectations.
Pobrecito.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
I did my own little research. Did you know the original Olympics were very strange? A lot of the athletes were nude. So in fact, what the Olympics began as was basically veiled pornography for the upper classes. If they had the internet back then, there would be no Olympics. Look, that's my theory. She says she's representing people, but she's actually representing Red Bull. I mean, that was a great advertisement with her little Red Bull ski cap, the official drink for hungover frat boys. I return to my central belief. There's just too much Olympics. When I was younger, it was every 4 years, and then they split it, alternate it. So it's now every 2 years. So it's always coming at you like Christmas music or the Oscars. It always feels like it's speeding up, and it just reminds you that 1 year's gone and you're going to die.
I agree. I like every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
Let's go back to every 4 years or 8 years. How about that?
Juan, can you explain to us why something like this would happen, and what would you tell these young athletes that want to opine in this fashion?
I love America, and I love American athletes. And if she's being sincere, she can speak out. I think that's terrific. I don't have any problem with that. Now, the issue that you guys raised is, could it damage her, Kimberly, with her audience or her fans or the advertisers? I mean, if you were advising her, you'd say, stay away from it because we don't want to get in trouble with any segment of the audience. And she does rely on sponsors. So I think that, you know, knowing as little as I do about Lindsey Vonn, I just think that must be what she believes. And I'll take her as being sincere. And this is not being a political act. The thing that concerned me was Nikki Haley, the UN ambassador, said today that there's a possibility the U.S. team will not go to
Yeah, but then
South
Sarah
Korea.
Sanders put out a statement saying that the United States looks forward to being there.
Well, so, what struck me from what Nikki Haley says, it was an unsettled question. And
I think she was trying to be cautious, just
correct.
given
And I think that there's a real threat given what we know about the North. So to me, that's the big issue here is, do we send a team? And then I think back to, you know, like when President Carter didn't send the team because he was upset with the Russians. I guess that's back in 78 or... we could win them all. But on the other hand, what's going on with the Olympics now that they become so political? I guess the Russian thing is about cheating with drugs and the like, but you can bet that Vladimir Putin and his guys are going to say, this is political punishment for us, you know, and we win all the time. Oh, please.
Oh, please. All right. Well, let's see. I hate to see, you know, the Olympics not participated in. It's just...
I think we're going.
I think
We're
so,
going.
too. So let's
It's
just
2
be
weeks of
optimistic.
something that's the size of JFK. It's 2 weeks of the size of
All
a
right.
new airport. That's all it is. It'll probably be the safest place on earth. If you're there at that compound, you are in the safest place.
Because Lauer's not going to be there.
That's true. That was better than the puns.
That was better than the puns. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, well, ahead, a stunning comment by President Obama about President Trump flying completely under the radar this week.
All right. We're getting reports that Republican Congressman Trent Franks from Arizona is about to resign, possibly over inappropriate behavior. We'll bring you any developments when they come. Anyway, President Obama still has Trump on his mind. Tuesday, he spoke to the Economic Club of Chicago, where Crain's columnist Greg Huns noted a startling comparison of Trump to Hitler. Huns paraphrases what he heard President Obama say. We have to tend to this garden of democracy or else things could fall apart quickly. That's what happened in Germany in the 1930s, which despite the democracy of the Weimar Republic and centuries of high-level cultural and scientific achievements, Adolf Hitler rose to dominate. 60 million people died. So you got to pay attention and vote. So, Nazi Germany, here we come. Now, he said this just hours before Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, which makes Donald Trump a pretty weak Nazi.
The worst one.
Yeah, the worst one ever. And after America had just decimated ISIS, the worst group of fascists since the Nazis. So we aren't becoming Nazis, we're stopping Nazis. But this is what liberals do, comparing adversaries to Hitler. But Obama's right. If you stop paying attention, anything could happen. You could elect an inexperienced senator from Illinois who relentlessly expands executive power with a phone and a pen, a radical progressive, just a stone's throw from Stalinism, which killed over 100 million people. See how easy this stupid little game is? So as Obama indulges lazy tropes, he ignores the crushing of ISIS, a free press that's now louder than ever, and a federal government whose reach and size may be shrinking for once. Because, of course, that's what dictators do. They shrink government. If that's Nazi Germany, someone slept through history class. Can we call a moratorium on Hitler comparisons, Juan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. There.
Done.
Excellent. We'll be right
Got two
back.
votes, right?
Up next, one more, a 12-minute one more thing.
Just tossed
Well,
a
I will
special
say-
report.
I will say, I thought what he said about paying attention and voting, boy, that's good. That's important for Democrats, especially going into midterms. So
That's important for everybody,
the
but you
political
don't need
message.
Hitler.
Well, the thing about it is he didn't mention Trump's name, but he gave every indication, like all these guys do, that he's talking about Trump.
Trump, yes.
And when you look at what Trump's doing, you talk about, smaller
Don't
government.
do it.
Oh, my
no, no.
gosh.
Wait, yeah,
Right.
smaller government.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
when you look at what Trump's doing in terms of regulation and things like this week, taking away federal parkland and so forth, a lot of people get upset.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it would have been better if, well, it's better for any president to try to pass something through Congress, because that's how our system works, that you can then have it more enshrined in law rather than having a pen and a phone. Then the next president also has a pen and a phone, and those things get rolled back.
I don't think too many people roll back federal parklands.
Just giving it back to the people one. It was a land grab.
By the way, there are a lot of
500
bears in
million
those
acres.
parks. Those places aren't safe.
That's why you stay out of.
I stay out of the parks.
That's one reason.
Actually, I've been told I'm not allowed in the parks.
It's a restraining order.
Yes. All right. So, Jesse, the thing that kills me about this conversation is that it ignores a central truth that the press has never been more alive because of Trump. They were comatose under Obama because that was their guy. That was their benign emperor. So now they're shouting and shouting. Isn't that a good thing? Shouldn't they rejoice?
Yeah, I mean, they're all getting rich, and that's fine. That's democracy and capitalism. But this is a case study in media bias. Imagine if Bush, on the first year, came out overseas and called Obama Hitler. I mean, that would be a huge story. And now the press is covering up for this. You're not going to hear it anywhere, probably except here on The Five. Also, I thought Obama was better than this. To compare his predecessor to Adolf Hitler.
No,
I mean,
his successor.
The successor to Adolf Hitler? Horrible, horrible. Just demeaning beneath him. I thought he was better than this. I guess I was wrong. I'm not often wrong, but I guess I am.
Oh, my God.
He's as bitter as the
So
bitter
nuts.
clingers he smeared earlier on in 2008. And there's a reason he's so bitter, Juan. It's because his legacy is being dismembered limb from limb. They're about to revoke the mandate. The Iran deal's in the crosshairs. The year he leaves office, the economy starts surging. And ISIS is being decimated. So I understand why he's angry, but that was just a horrific comparison.
Oh, yeah? You should look at his numbers versus Trump's numbers some days. If you just think...
Popularity
who's
means nothing when you're out of
I see.
office.
Very
Juan.
good. That's right. Okay.
KG.
That's a good thing for a Trump backer to say.
Talk to me in 8 years.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sure his poll numbers will be just fine.
Because Jesse's really never, rarely, if ever, wrong.
99.9%.
He was wrong. He was wrong once, but then
I don't
he
want
was
to
mistaken.
think what I look like in 8 years in The Five. I'm going to be so fat. Fat and bald. I'll be fat, bald, and angry.
Wait, when? Now?
You're not losing your hair at all.
No, I think it's coming back.
It was thinning a little in the front.
Then I
and
started
it's,
eating
like,
a lot of
coming
bacon.
back. Yeah.
I find that
ever
bacon rubbing it
all
into
the
your
pig
head.
fat has really helped to stimulate the production in your scalp.
It's a swine shine.
You know what you should do? You should ask Kimberly for some of her hair.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, this is true.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about President Obama.
Hitler.
Back to Hitler.
Back to Hitler.
No, President Obama, and I said to myself, how long would it take for him to try to take credit for the Trump economy? Because he's like Jesse, very good at saying I was right or I'm responsible for this and I'm number one, right?
Yeah.
It's really true. He's got let's say, a healthy sense of himself.
It's a gift.
right.
And of course, he wants to take credit for, President Trump's accomplishments. But, that's fine. As long as the country is going ahead, I'm fine with the results speak for themselves.
Awesome. All right, Roger Goodell, you remember him, gets a big payday from the NFL. Does he deserve it? That's next.
Welcome back. The NFL has had lots of turmoil over the past few years. The concussion flap, the Deflategate, the anthem controversy, and now low turnout in some stadiums. So a lot of people are wondering today, how in the world did Commissioner Roger Goodell just get a new $200 million contract extension? Did he deserve it? Let's go to our football expert. What do you say, Jesse? Sorry, Dana. Sorry.
Listen, I don't like to criticize people that I might need favors from later.
Oh, you want
But
tickets?
in this case, I'm going to make an exception.
He wanted the Super Bowl tickets.
I know, but here's the deal. I mean, I don't mind someone making a lot of money in this country as long as they deserve it. I just don't think he deserves it. From concussions to kneeling to Deflategate, from the domestic abuse.
Murders.
The league has been riddled with controversies that I think have all been mishandled by the commissioner. So, it's a huge extension. By the end of it, he's supposed to be making $500 million a year. I don't know anybody with his track record that is worth that much, but you know what? He's managed to put himself in the situation, so he must be a smooth operator behind the scenes.
Well, it'll be $500 million in his total compensation if he finishes his contract. But so much of it, Dana, is tied to whether the league reaches financial targets. And right now, don't forget, the league is described in some of the articles I read as still a financial juggernaut with $14 billion in revenue annually.
Wow.
Right. So I feel like they should just let the market decide. And the market decided, meaning that the ones that are giving him the contract have decided that he's good enough and smart enough.
Apt comparison
Yes,
on this
thank
day.
you.
Yeah, really. So you know what, Kimberly, the thing that struck me...
Inflategate.
Huh?
Inflategate.
Inflategate?
Deflategate?
No, this is
inflate.
inflate.
Oh, yes, very good.
$200 million.
That was good. That was
a good
good.
pun.
Quick.
So what do you
And she didn't
think?
have to write it all day.
By the way, what I was going to say, say to you
Exactly.
before that lovely use of language was, they point out that CEO pay right now is a point of great controversy in the country with
That's true.
income inequality, and that S&P 500 leaders, $13 million was the average pay in 2016. The average worker, $37,000. This is unbelievable.
No, you're absolutely right. Maybe he should say, well, I'm really appreciative to have this money. This is why I'm also going to contribute to these social justice reform organizations.
Oh, no, they're going to take that
You
out
know?
of the breast cancer awareness money.
But there you go. I mean, it's unbelievable. Compensation should be commensurate with performance. I believe in meritocracy, and to me, this does seem just very high. The number to me is very large. I'm not sure because, in fact, so many people were talking about him that he should perhaps be removed and somebody else become commissioner, like Condoleezza Rice. Someone that you would actually get, your money's worth. I don't know. I mean, I think he has a very nice wife.
Who used to work
Jane
here.
is lovely.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. She thinks the world of him. Personally, I think he's fine. It's just I don't think that the NFL right now, the past, kind of the historical examples of where it's come from and what's going on now and the problems that they have, especially as a former prosecutor, really, serious issues as it relates to criminality, like Jesse mentioned, with domestic violence, homicides, rape cases, not good.
So, Greg, the league's going to have to negotiate with the players, and what the folks who backed the contract said was, we like Roger Goodell as we enter into this negotiation with the players' contracts, and so much is going to be on the table. By the way, Jerry Jones is the one owner who does not like this deal, and I don't know if he doesn't like it because his player got suspended or whatever, but he was an opponent, and very publicly so.
Yeah. Imagine if Goodell had done a good job. Imagine that salary. Hey, look, you couldn't pay me to do that job, so probably he's getting paid the right thing. Look, football is going through a spiritual and a physical crisis right now. That people don't feel good about it. It's too long. It's too political. It's too divisive. It's too dangerous. And they're no longer the only game in town. There's so many other things you can do. There's like bar rescue marathons. There are forensic files. You can turn on anytime there's a forensic file. I won't leave because I need to watch the end. Football, and also football is no bowling. Bowling is the true American sport. Football is some kind of communist racket.
What is wrong with you?
Oh, my God. All right.
You weren't even listening.
This is
Yes, I
too
was.
much, so you better stay right
Can't
where you are.
compare
One more thing.
football
Up
to
next.
bowling.